see lots of friends here, Eva and Maurice and Jeremy and many others, so bless you all. And I do have a PowerPoint here and I'm going to move through it very quickly. But I just want to say just one thing. We have a song line coming all the way from the time of Moses and Miriam when they sang the Song of the Sea or the Song of Moses. A song line that extended all the way to the Yorta Yorta people on Cumbregunja. So all of that distance and all of that through time, that song line has come, and it's the lyrics have been changed a bit to Narrabri Farah. And it came, you think, well, how on earth would that happen? It came by the way of some Black American gospel singers who'd been freed from slavery in the USA. So William Cooper may well have been singing that song, and the Aboriginal Advancement League may well have been singing that song with him when they had the protest to the German consulate in 1938. Isn't that amazing? So I'll just go on to this. So William Cooper, 1860 to 1941. So he was a Christian Aboriginal activist for human rights and for Jews and Aborigines, a Yorta Yorta man from the Murray River area. That's the day of mourning protest advertisement. Next one. Okay, so in the 20th of July 1887, William Cooper, his brothers, Coopers and Atkinsons, and 5 friends, they had a petition to the government there in New South Wales because it was the centenary of white settlement and the Jubilee year of the reign of Queen Victoria, and they thought it might be a good time to put in a petition for land. However, it was rejected. Later on, a decade later, blocks were allocated at Cumbregunja for the people, and they did all this improvement on the land, and it was taken back from them. Okay, so he started doing petitions really early in his youth, even though we find that his activism for Jewish people is in his old age. Next one. Oh, I'm the one with it. Okay, so we've got William Cooper in the centre and members of the Australian Aborigines League. Now, he set this up in 1932 but formalised it in 1936. It wasn't the first Aboriginal organisation. There was one a little bit earlier in Sydney, but didn't last very long. This one is a national organisation. It still exists with a name change. Okay, Aboriginal Advancement League. Okay, so this shack shows the housing in Cumra. Now they had that's short for Cumbregunja, they had a strike there because of the bad conditions. And William Cooper was already in Melbourne, and he and Jack Patton from Sydney, also a Yorta Yorta man, helped them with that strike. Interestingly, they crossed the Murray River from New South Wales into Victoria, and they called it an exodus. So you know we've got some comparisons to the story of Moses and William Cooper, because his people were called the Reed people on Murray River, and we know that Moses was found in the reeds or bulrushes. How amazing! There's more there. If you read my book, in the last chapter, there's some really interesting stuff there. Okay, so 1933, William Cooper gathered 1,814 signatures from Aborigines in most states. Amazingly, about half of those were from Palm Island in Queensland, and that's because William Cooper knew the missionary there, Ernest Gribble, who assisted him. However, the Australian government would not send it to King George V. Reason? Aboriginal people were not considered citizens of Australia. They actually lost their citizenship at 1901 when the states formed a Commonwealth. Amazing enough. That's why we've got all these issues about constitutional change for Indigenous people. I'm talking about the first book first, then I'll go on to the second one. Okay, next. So this sparked the campaign for citizenship and Indigenous people to be counted in the census for the 1967 referendum. And you can see that painting of Normans there. So that happened after a 10-year battle. Okay, so what we have here is we've got myself, Abe and Uncle Boydie, William Cooper's grandson, and Abe and Uncle Boydie have really done a wonderful job over the years of promoting the legacy of William Cooper, and other family members have joined in since then. But here we are at with the staff of the National Archives. So they brought the petition of William Cooper over to the Centre for Christianity and Culture for us to look at in May 2013. It was intact, but no signatures. So then what we did was we started a campaign to get new signatures to go with the petition, because it was on Uncle Boydie's heart to revamp the petition, the original petition with new signatures, and present that to the Queen. And poetic justice, Uncle Boydie, as the grandson of William Cooper, wanted to present it to the Queen, the granddaughter of King George V. It was originally intended for. And so we have the Chabad in Canberra, Rabbi Shmuley Feldman, here with Reverend James Hare, and I'm reading the petition out there. And this was the launch that Abe had organised, the launch at that place. We formed Uncle Boydie's dream team to help him fulfil his grandfather's view of getting the petition to the Queen. So I did a foreword and put it on my website. Matt Bushby Andrews did a new website up, and I received all the signatures and basically coordinated that. So the government allowed Uncle Boydie to meet Prince William in Sydney after a lot of lobbying, but they weren't allowed to hand over the petition to him. There was issues of protocol, which was disappointing at the time, but he did meet them. And later on, at Government House, Canberra, in May 2014, Peter Cosgrove, the then Governor-General, actually received the replica of the petition with all of the new signatures. And as I said, David Jack had prepared that for us. He took the photo. And then, shortly afterwards, the Governor-General went to England, and he presented it to the Queen at Balmoral Castle in Scotland in August 2014. So, mission accomplished. Uncle Boydie got the petition to England, to the royal family, the Queen. Okay, so a couple of more things in terms of, you'll see that there's two books here. I actually launched in 2012 the first William Cooper book here, so I have to watch my time, won't I? Race through this. And so I'm focusing on the first book, which is about his Aboriginal activism. So here we have the 150th anniversary of white settlement was not a celebration for Aboriginal people, so they had a day of mourning. So basically we have here Doug Nichols, we have with him from Sydney, we have Bill Ferguson and Jack Patton. Australia Day protest, 1938. The 80th anniversary, you can see Michael seated there with Norman, and Barbara Graviner and other family members were there. 80th anniversary in Sydney. Norman and Michael are leaving the Australian Hall to walk to the Abund Festival to commemorate Survival Day, January 26, 2018. National Aboriginal and Islander Day Observance Committee. Now, William Cooper is the father of NAIDOC. Now, probably many of you have celebrated that over the years, and this was one of the things that got me first interested in William Cooper when I found out that he'd instituted it. Originally as Aboriginal Sunday, and later on it became a secular observance of Aborigines Day, and later into a whole week of NAIDOC. I won't go into that, but basically it was held the first Sunday before Australia Day since 1940. It's all those years it's been celebrated. You probably know the Batman electorate was renamed Cooper. What an amazing thing to have happen. And this was July 2018. Ged Kearney, the MP, is the member there with Uncle Boydie holding a map of the electorate. So William Cooper has been so honoured in Australia by Jewish and other organisations. It's been absolutely amazing. There's the mural in Shepparton, unveiled in 2017, and also Doug Nicholls, the first Indigenous Governor of South Australia, and the only one of any state in Australia. He's there on the left, and he's actually the great-nephew of William Cooper, and William Cooper mentored him. In fact, William Cooper stayed on his case until he got involved in Aboriginal affairs and told him to start wobbling his tongue. Okay, so here's a wonderful 1.8 metre bronze statue of William Cooper in Shepparton, in the park there, unveiled in March 2018. So that was a very quick run through. Okay, the second book, how am I going? Viva for time. Second book, Shattered Lives, Broken Dreams, William Cooper and Australian Aborigines Protest Holocaust by Barbara Miller. It was really Kristallnacht, but that was known as the start of the Holocaust. Okay, now most reports say that 91 Jews were killed. However, the Jerusalem Post of 2017 says it's more like 1,600. And that figure of 91 comes from Heydrich. Now, he was the one who instituted the final solution. So I know Germans really tried to keep their numbers accurate, but I suspect I'd probably more likely go with the 1,600. Okay, 7,000 Jewish businesses and 900 synagogues were destroyed, and 30,000 Jews were sent to concentration camps. It was an absolutely horrific time because this happened in Germany, Austria, and Sudetenland after Anschluss. And basically, a lot of the German Jews were very part of Jewish society, the intelligentsia, etc. And to have this happen was absolutely a shocking thing. At a meeting of the Australian Aborigines League, a resolution was passed on behalf of Aborigines of Australia, so they knew they were a national organisation. A strong protest against, quote, the cruel persecution of the Jewish people by the Nazi government of Germany, and asking that this persecution be brought to an end. So there was an appointment at 11:30 on Tuesday, the 6th of December 1938, for William Cooper and a small delegation to actually meet with Dr. Dreschler, the Consul General at the time. They were refused admittance, but he left behind a letter saying that he wanted it sent to Germany. And I can just imagine, in the book I've tried to imagine what that was like with the German consulate, seeing this huge group of Aboriginal people kind of marching towards them, and yes, so do have a look at that. Okay, so I wanted you to get an idea of who else could have been with William Cooper that day, because it's not on the written record. But this is a photo of William, Margaret Tucker, William's son Lynch, and William's wife Sarah. Margaret Lynch, Thomas James and his son Shadrach James, the owner's family, the Morgans, and white supporters Arthur Burdo and Helen Bailey were active in the AAL, and very likely would have been the ones to march to the consulate. So this was for my book in 2012. I felt it would be good to have a reenactment of that 1938 march of William Cooper and the League. And so with the help of the Jewish Holocaust Centre in Melbourne and Abe and others, you can see us leaving there, Uncle Boydie, Kevin Russell, Norman and others, from William Cooper's old home of 73 Southampton Street, Footscray to the German consulate, 425 Collins Street. What I wanted to do was to have the reenactment go to the site where the consulate was in 1938, because it's not there at that site now. And I contacted Michael Pearce, who was the present consul, and he was willing to do it if he had clearance from Canberra, from the embassy, and he had that. And here we are, we're arriving here, and Michael Pearce actually said sorry. We had a lot of Holocaust survivors and children of survivors, and when he had sorry, you know, there were a lot of tears, and it was a very, very moving event. We had Aborigines and Christians there as well, but it was just amazing, and that's actually on the cover of that book. So at that, Uncle Bordy delivered a replica of the letter of protest re Kristallnacht to Michael Pearce. So, you know, it's amazing that he was able to do that, fulfill those two mitzvah, so to speak. Now, Josie mentioned Evian, and I go to a lot of information on that in the book, and reason being that that's something Norman and I followed for 10 years with trying to get an apology from the Australian government to Israel, and it eventually came with Kevin Rudd in 2010, in December, when William Cooper was honoured with an academic chair of resistance to the Holocaust named after him. And some of the speakers from Yad Vashem actually raised the issue of Evian, and we had been lobbying Kevin Rudd, and he made the apology there, and again next day at King David Hotel with the government of Israel. So I'll run through this quickly because Josie's already covered it. But basically, yes, a green light to Hitler when the nations would not take in Jewish refugees with the impending Holocaust. They didn't know how bad it was going to be, but they closed their doors. They cited economic reasons, but racism had a lot to do with it. T.W. White from Australia, we do not have a racial problem and are not desirous of importing one. At Yad Vashem, that's actually on a plaque there. And I asked them one day, if all the other countries did that, why did you single out Australia to put their response? And I was told they thought Australia was more honest than all the other nations, and so it was more representative. Okay, after Kristallnacht, Australia increased its quota to 15,000, but many died before getting here. The quota was not filled because it was stopped by World War II. However, Australia took in many Holocaust survivors after the war, excuse me, and is second only to Israel in the number of Holocaust survivors per capita. Water? In 2002, we apologised to Jeremy Jones. He was in charge of the Executive Council Australian Jewry there. The Israel consul to Sydney, Evi Betayatu, and Witso and the Sydney Jewish Museum. And then in 2004 to Solly Kaplinsky at Yad Vashem, and in 2012 to Shaya Ben Yehuda at Yad Vashem. We don't run around saying sorry all the time. It might look like it there. But we just felt it was so important, and we presented that lovely plaque there to Shaya and Dr. Susan Kekkonen. Foreign Minister Kevin Rudd. Here he is unveiling the plaque that gave the academic chair of resistance to the Holocaust to William Cooper. And so, as I said, he apologised for Australia's standard Evian. So, trips by Uncle Bordy and family to Martyrs Forest and Utia Forest, where there are plaques to William Cooper, occurred in 2009, 2012 and 2017. Assisted by Rob Schneider in front here at JNF. This is a 2017 picture. Norman and I were with them on the 2012 trip. So in 2017 really was the culmination of many things, and this was what the key thing was, that Uncle Bordy Hand's letter to Dr. Felix Klein. He was the German ambassador for relations with Jewish communities. And so this amazingly happened on the anniversary of Kristallnacht in 2017 in Berlin. So it was an amazing occasion. And Abe was with them, and David Jack and a couple of others. David Jack's been with it all the way through since 2011. And they also went to England and also to Belgium, where William Cooper's grandson, Dan Cooper, is buried. I don't have time to go there with that. A long list of Jewish organisations in Australia have honoured William Cooper over the years: the Sydney Jewish Museum, the Jewish Holocaust Centre in Melbourne, Courage to Care, JNF, We Are Here Foundation, etc. And now William Cooper Institute has been set up at Monash University, with also scholarships for Indigenous students from Gandalf Philanthropy. And Norman and I were privileged to be there, and we were privileged to be at the Richmond Football Club in December as well. Michael was there too. And this is where the William Cooper Training and Education Hub Swinburne Centre Richmond was set up. So I don't have time to go into that, but you know, and then there was the Crystal Cantata, also in Temple Beth, Israel, and I had the opportunity to read the scripture from Isaiah, which was wonderful. But look, I don't have time to say more about it now. I hope I haven't run over time, but thank you so very much for coming, and this just gives you a taste, a little taste of what is in both books. So blessed reading.